So I would say that probably the biggest single factor was during COVID and the death of George Floyd. And I think that that had, of course, it had kind of ripples across the world. It had ripples across this country with huge demonstrations, but it also had a real impact within the organisation. So I think for me, that was quite a seismic moment, really. So that was the first real indication. But I think also there have been a number of, I suppose, I've seen a number of talks, presentations and things like that that have really given me this sense of got to think more about race. A few years ago, I saw Dr. David Williams, who is an American academic, talk about the impact of racism on ethnic minority people. And he talked about the daily impact, the impact on physical health, the impact on mental health, the impact on life chances. And that had some real resonance with me, and I think was my first thought about what structural racism actually is about when we think about how it affects an individual, and then you multiply that up to what it means about society and how we interact in society. So I think the main thing I would say here is that fundamentally we've had the conversation, or we've had the conversations, because it's not just one conversation, is it? It's about ongoing conversation. So I think that that's the biggest step that we've taken, and we have done a lot of work looking at what we need to do as an organisation, and we haven't just talked about it, we've pulled together an anti-racism statement, we've pulled together an action plan, and that has really helped us focus our efforts on what we need to do as an organisation. And that's included a really big step forward for us, which was the establishment of our Race Equality and Cultural Inclusion Network. And I think we've made some big changes recently and steps forward in terms of our HR interventions. So some inclusive leadership training, interview training. So really practical steps that help us to be the anti-racist organisation that we aspire to be. So I think that the main changes that we've seen are both internally focused and externally focused. So I think that we are really focusing on how we kind of sew the thread of anti-racism across all of our support offers and think really carefully about that. And that's very important for the organisation. I think the other element that is really tangible is that internal piece and the support for and visibility of RECI, the Race Equality and Cultural Inclusion Network, because that is a really important group, not only for minority ethnic staff, but also for white allies. And it's very, very important opportunity to understand, listen and learn. I think the final thing I would say that's important is that our staff are reporting greater confidence in talking about race. We're not 100% of the way there yet. Some staff want more training, but overall, we've definitely upped our ability to be able to talk about race, and that's really, really important. This really speaks to credibility, and I think us going on our journey helps us understand the journey that our members are on. So when we are focusing on our race action plan, we start to understand some of the barriers and the challenges, and we can only imagine what it's like in a trust. We're 100 people at NHS Providers, a trust of 5,000, 10,000 people, and the challenges that they might face. But I also think it speaks to integrity as well, and how we pull together the different elements of being anti-racist. So for me, that's about individual actions and, you know, individuals taking those steps. It's about the impact on the organisation and everything we do, and then making sure that we're applying that to our externally facing work. So it's about integrity, really. I think there's a really important connection between the work we've done internally and the work we are doing to support our members through the Race Equality programme. And I know that through my involvement chairing events, I've heard a huge number of insights, innovations, good practice from ethnic minority leaders, which has really not only helped us support other leaders across the NHS frontline, but it's also helped us with our internal work. I think there are a number of things, but the main thing I would say is that I'm a reader. So it's been reading, really understanding and getting underneath the issues where, particularly in those areas where I think I don't have that lived experience, I don't know what it's about, so I have to read about it to understand it. And I think that it's by reading and also by discussing and having conversations that you can really start to understand why I'm no longer talking to white people about race. We read in the NHS Providers book club. It was really fantastic. It really gave us some massive insights and understandings. The other bit that I'm personally interested in is intersectionality as well. So how do different protected characteristics come together? So, you might be a person of colour to start with, but then you're also a woman or you're also gay, and what does that mean for you in terms of your experiences of life? And I'm very interested in that and understanding the impact of that. This is actually probably one of the hardest questions to answer, really, but I think it's about being supportive, and that's supporting people across the piece. So it's supporting our ethnic minority colleagues and understanding what's going on for them. It's supporting other white colleagues who might be struggling with issues. And I think it's about making sure that you're not afraid to tackle the issues and that you don't assume understanding, you don't presume what other people need, you're asking the questions so that you're understanding, and also making sure that you're the one who is doing the heavy lifting. I think I was that person who was really frightened of saying the wrong thing. Absolutely identify with that. And I think that it is really important to overcome that. And certainly as our journey at NHS Providers has evolved, that's certainly something that I have learned, which is it's better to say something than to be frightened to say the wrong thing, because that silence is incredibly alienating, and you're leaving people alone in what is a very difficult situation. So for me, speaking is really important, but I did have a lot of discomfort and probably do still have some discomfort, but that is decreasing over time. As I think talking about race, being anti-racist it's a muscle, isn't it? And you have to, if you want that muscle to work properly, you have to train and develop that muscle. And you can only do that with practice. So that's, I think, really important. But in terms of tips for other leaders, I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all, but I think that the three things I would say are: take responsibility for broaching issues, don't be a bystander, and thirdly, you have to be brave, because it won't be half as bad for you as it is for the person that you're talking to.